Up before the kickoff from Brian and the boys who are out there on the pitch.
Yes, Eddie, we're down here looking up at the famous steep sloping terraces of the Odsall Stadium. Has seen plenty glory nights, as have the loyal supporters that fill it week in, week out. But let me tell you, it must seem like an age since the likes of Joe Vangina, Leslie Vinacola and the Henry and Robbie Paul walked out of this tunnel and onto this field. They were a threat to every team in Super League that they faced. It's been 2008 since this famous club last made the playoffs. Will 2012 herald a change of fortune for the people that pack out this glorious bowl week in, week out? Well, we have to wait and see. We saw them last weekend against the Leeds Rhinos at Magic Weekend. They lost that game, but it was a credible defeat. And their opponents, Castleford, who come here tonight on the back of another Magic Weekend defeat, they put in a credible performance. John Wells, you've examined both of those games and looked at a few areas that perhaps both teams would have worked on this week.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Well, both teams, yes, lost last weekend. Contributing factors, different contributing factors for both of their losses. And we'll start with Castleford first. Now, we play a team sport, but within that team, lots of different mini units, people working together at different times and places on the field for different reasons. The marker defence, for example, two guys will work together there to patrol and marshal the opposition ruck area and the opposition play the ball. Kick chase, for example, often a back rower, centre and winger will hurtle downfield together as a unit to put pressure after a clearing kick has been made. And the back three, the two wingers and the fullback, are another such mini unit that work in a very similar way. The fullback, he'll shadow the lateral movement of the opposition, play the ball, and the two wingers will adjust their position in the backfield depending on where the fullback is in relation to their own defensive line and depending on where they are in the field and what play it is as well. And I think that for Castleford is where they haven't quite got things right in recent weeks. They've been struggling. They've not been as efficient as they could have been, because an efficient team will be taking clearing kicks on the full, making yards for their forward pack and reducing the yardage pressure on that forward pack as well. Now, they lost against Wakefield last weekend in the Magic Weekend, and have got some examples now to show you, the first of which happened 3 times in this game. And it's the two ball players there for Wakefield, two recognised kickers, only one out left out on the as an option to get out of their own half. That should have been picked out by one of these 3 men. I don't think they organised themselves as well, and the kick goes through, turns around, puts Richard Owen behind his own in goal. They're only able to take it out 10-15 metres as opposed to the 30 or 40 that they would have been had they been working more efficiently together. Such miscommunication then and position errors can have more serious consequences. Look at Tim Smith opting for a kick on the short side. Nick Youngquist has spotted it, but as we zoom back out here, keep your eye on Nick Youngquist. He's calling for Richard Owen. He's not getting an answer from him. And from there, once they go short side, Youngquist should be coming up now as he is. That's not his ball to go and chase. Richard Owen should have been covering to find that. He didn't get there in time, and then we know all about that horrid bounce of that ball, and it led to the Fox try. Now, Bradford, they also lost in their last weekend's Magic Weekend to Leeds. They struggled too at the other end of the field for me, it was, and it was their execution and attack. Some poorly timed passes, some badly executed plays, really hamstrung that Bradford attacking play. And when it comes to the ball players in attack, they really need to get some pressure on and really execute these plays as well as they can, because they weren't there, and we've got some examples to show you from that game as well. And it was really, again, 4 minutes into the second half, the first clip, a really badly executed play. They'd obviously decided to do this in training, was going to go through that offload, whatever. That was on the 4th tackle. This next example is even worse. This is Luke Gale on the second play. 24 minutes left on the clock when he chose to throw that, and the last one, a last tackle option, 15 straight tackles, 4 solid minutes, all the principal ball players open side, and Luke Gale for some reason decides to go short side and try and push a play which ultimately fizzles out. A large contributing factor as to why Bradford couldn't go on and win that game, and that's something, Brian, I think both sides will have been working very hard on to rectify this week.
No doubt they will have been working hard with their coach Mick Potter, and he'll be glad for a little bit of consistency in selection. I don't think any team this year in Super League has been ravaged with injuries quite like the Bradford Bulls. Well, last weekend, Graham Beecroft, Magic Weekend, another injury hit.
Another injury hit side, 4 players out injured. Craig Kopchak injured in the first minute in that game against Leeds. They also had Matt Diskin out, Elliot Keir, Chev Walker as well. And of course, we mustn't forget about the illness to Adrian Patel. He's okay, but clearly not going to be fit for quite a few weeks.
Well, some significant absentees. Has he got anybody to call back?
Yes, he's had 5 players drafted into the squad. Of those, Tom Alberson and Sean Ainscough start. Ian Sibbott is on the bench.
Well, it's a compliment, I guess, to Bradford's recruitment that they can still put out strong squads despite all these injuries. And it's a compliment to Mick Potter's coaching that with these injuries, they still put in some very, very gutsy performances despite not getting the results. And last weekend was an example of that, Terry.
Well, for 70 minutes, Brian, last week when they played against Leeds, they were very committed, they were aggressive. They suffered an injury at the very first carry of the game, and you just look what happened, and they always seem to be on the back foot. They've got problems going on off the pitch, but you just look at the focus, what they have. They've turned up here, and they've got to make sure that they control the controllables, and that is playing. Matt Diskin is a huge loss for them, but Heath Lestrange is very good out of dummy half, and where they had success last week, and where they've had success during the year, is the speed around the middle of the park. But the player that I want to talk about is Ben Jeffries. He is the midfield general. He's very creative. The running game that he has, he seems to take the game by the scruff of the neck. When things are going against him, his short and long kicking game is absolutely exceptional. He goes at the line, he drags defenders, he puts the big fellas where they don't want to be. But Ben Jeffries, there's a lot of pressure on him, but there's a lot of pressure on Bradford. But can they get up for this game? Let's have a look how they line up tonight. Looking after the try line at the back is Brett Carney. On the right side, Sean Ainscough, Michael Platt come in for the injured Kieran Patel. On the opposite side, we have the talented Lou Leah and Big Carl Price. The two halves leading the team around are Luke Gale and the experienced Ben Jeffries. Up front for the Bulls, we have Manica forward and Hargreave. Heath Lestrange is promoted from the bench in place of the injured Matt Diskin. He'll captain the side. And in the back row are youngsters Bateman and Tom Alberson, who comes in for Elliot Whitehead, who's dropped to the bench. And at loose forward is French international Olivier Delamere. On the bench for the Bulls is Elliot Whitehead, Tom Burgess, Danny Addy, and Ian Sibbott is back. He hasn't played since he damaged his shoulder versus Castleford back in February. And they're coached by Mick Potter.
Despite all those injuries, can still call on its squad, packed full of Super League experience. Keep an eye out for centre Michael Platt, 7 tries in his last 4 games. That's the home side, the Bradford Bulls. Graham Beecroft joins me again. The visitors, the Castleford Tigers, they don't have anything like the injury worries that the Bradford Bulls have.
Not at all. They lost last week, of course, but they haven't lost any players, so that's a massive bonus. And he's brought in 2 players in Millwood into the 17. Josh Griffin starts, and Ryan